On April 1st, 2021, I ditched a career I absolutely hated to better myself and do the things I've always wanted to do. And that included my growing love and obsession with Ireland. I want to learn everything: culture, history, mythology, music, and the language. Which, if I'm being honest, looks really hard to learn, but I'm going to give it the old Smith try. Then, of course, there is my love of pubs and the role that they've played throughout history, and no better example of that than on that beautiful, beleaguered island in the North Atlantic, Ireland. April 1st, 2026, I depart for the Emerald Isle, and for 1 year, I'll hike town by town and conduct interviews with pub owners, pub regulars, historians, town know-it-alls, musicians, and basically anybody that wants to talk to me. If you'd like to support the project and the journey, basic Patreon support is only $3 a month, but just liking a video or subscribing to the channel and following the journey is just as helpful. I'm always looking for volunteers to work as liaisons for the project too, so if you live in Ireland and know people, feel free to hit me up. This is a huge goal and I need all the help I can get. The Smitty Learns Irish Pubcast begins April 26th and will be my life's work. Thank you. And hello, welcome to the What the Hell Everything podcast. My name is Smitty. If you're here, you are expecting my interview with the legendary Irish band Aslan, and I am totally stoked to present it to you. I have fallen in love with this band, their music, and talking to them. I just falling in love with them as people as well. If you've been following the channel and my growing love for Irish culture and history and music, and just finding out about these guys was an absolute pleasure, and they were more than gracious in dealing with my awkward, nervous ass. So you guys, thank you for being here. Yes, Aslan, Joe Jewell, Billy McGuinness, Alan Downey. Here you go.
Well, how are you, Smitty?
How are you, gentlemen? Good to talk to you. Good to have you on.
Well, thanks for having us. Your reactions have been brilliant.
Thank you. It is absolutely not what I expected. A, to have the band watch it, and B, to have the band enjoy it. That was really awesome for you guys to share that. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Not at all. I tell you, it's great. It's great to hear, that someone that is just hearing Aslan for the fourth time. It's just so unreal. Do you know what I mean?
No, honestly, and we're rolling right into this, you guys. Obviously, talking to Alan, Billy, and oh, Jesus Christ, why am I forgetting? My worst fear was I know your names, guys. I apologize.
No.
Yes. You guys, thank you for joining me. I come from like a 15-year background in rock radio and have been so frustrated. The more that I've left the industry of just stuff you don't hear. You know what I mean? There is just a world literally of music out there. So to be able to discover bands like you guys now is so cool. I mean, how are you, by the way?
Right. Yeah, we're good. We're as you know, Christy, our lead singer, passed away earlier this year, and we've been rehearsing, we've been playing our songs, and it's a form of therapy for us, Smitty. It's the songs are great, and just we've had a year off. It's been over a year since we gigged, so just to be up here in the past few weeks and playing music, it's really helping us, because when we're playing the songs, we're talking about the songs when they were written. We're talking about the last time we performed them or whatever. So it's good. It has us talking about the songs, has us talking about Chrissy. And yeah, it's a grieving period, but we're moving forward.
And it's very, as Billy was saying there about gigging, Smithy, like in the 41 years the band have been together, all we ever do is gig. Like even when like those albums that you're listening to and stuff like that, when those albums were being recorded, we'd record them Sunday to Thursday, and then we'd be back in, we'd go off gigging. So the point I'm trying to make is, for us not to gig for a year is, like, in 41 years is we've never had a break like that before,
Right.
And we're missing it so much. Yeah. So much. Yeah.
keeps us on top of things as well, to be reacting with each other as musicians, you know what I mean? I think that's...
Well, that's super important. That's super important to me, is just to figure out how, you guys know each other musically as well as friends. You know what I mean? You guys have been around for 40 years. Like, I was watching that documentary last night from you guys, which was super well done, called Please Don't Stop. So that was documented up until the point really before I think Christy got sick, right? So I feel like that title of that documentary even rings more true now.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. I mean, Smitty, it would have been so easy. The easier it would have been to say, okay, let's knock it on the head. So I think if the three of us decide to move forward, I think that's our decision to make. And I don't think it's anyone else's decision to make, because we just love playing and we love hanging out with each other. And as you said, we're best mates, as well as being musicians in the same band for 41 years. We're also mates now at this stage, and I think it's very important that, that people respect the decision that we've made. Now, obviously, it's not going to be the same without Christy. Of course it's not. Christy is irreplaceable, but we're musicians. That's our decision to make, Smitty.
Absolutely. I look, just as something to compare it to. I mean, I think about a band like Alice in Chains, you know what I mean, who go on without a singer like Lane Staley, somebody who instantly you associate with that band. How do you even... I'm just thinking about how, because I know you didn't really discuss if you wanted to go on when Christy was still here. So how does that conversation start? Is it the conversation in your head? Do I want to talk to these guys about playing music, or is it just one of those things where you're in the same room and say, hey, why don't we jam? You know what I mean? How do those conversations start?
You're saying, like, when Christy wasn't too well and stuff, had we talked about...
I think I had seen in an interview that you guys hadn't really talked about, when he was gone, if you would go on. You hadn't had those conversations at all, right?
No, we kind of just left that until, I suppose, the inevitable kind of happened. Not any doubt in anyone's mind. I don't, like, even subconsciously or whatever way you want to look at it. Like, we knew kind of what was going to happen, but we didn't want to talk about what was going to happen. We just wanted to enjoy the last of it. And we always knew that we would want... I knew that Billy would want to keep going. He knew that I wanted, and Joe the same. Because that's what we want. It's just what we're born into. It's just...
Yeah, we never discussed it with Christy, I don't think it would have been the right thing to do. Actually, so.
Plus, it was a real shock as well when Christy did pass, because he was battling cancer for over 10 years.
Yeah.
So it became the norm that Christy would be receiving chemo, and then he'd be well enough to gig, and we'd go out to gig, and then when he wasn't well enough, we'd stop, and then we'd go back out. But that was over a 10-year period, because he was battling it for 10 years. So we just said, Christy's invincible. This day is not going to come. But unfortunately, it did come.
Yeah, I mean, just to see, it's such a shocker. I wasn't nervous before this interview until I saw footage of Christy's memorial, and just the amount of people that lined the streets and were singing along. I was completely blown away. Then I was nervous. I was like, oh, okay. This is a band that means so much to so many people, and a frontman that means so much to so many people. You guys have been together for 40 years. It's like a marriage. It's like a family, right? It's got to be.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah, 100%. Like when we're touring, we spend most time together than we would with our families, And we've been very lucky. Most bands, when they form, they last a year, maybe 2 years, 3 years. The stroke of luck that we had was when we released our first single independently, a song called This Is. which to this day is still getting played on radio and is still featured in, you know, Ireland's top 10 best songs ever. We were very lucky that that song was our first release, because that led to just 40 years of madness. I don't think if we'd have come out with such a strong song as this is, I don't know whether we'd still be here talking about it. It just, that song led to everything else happening for the band. It really opened doors, that song, This Is. And it's still like when we play it live, to hear the audience singing back to it, it's just, it's phenomenal, Smitty. It really is. It's a great buzz.
Well, what is striking to me is, you know, doing such a large amount of research in such a short amount of time for somebody who had never heard of the band, to try to find as many things as I could, just how you were able to seamlessly reflect the era musically in your band. You know what I mean? When I first heard it, very 90s sounding, you know what I mean? In a great way, where you were reflecting the era. You know, when I heard the first album, Feel No Shame, okay, I'm like, these guys came out with a real post-punk sensibility, but just the fact that you were able to seamlessly reflect the era that you were in musically. You know, you had a super popular #1 album, the band falls apart, you come back 5 or 6 years later, and just the fact that you were able to resonate again says, you know, so much about the band as a whole, because honestly, you guys, the more I listen, the more I hear just some great musical nuance, some great songwriting, and again, when you spent 15 years in rock radio and you've never heard of a band before, it pisses you off. You're like, why did this band escape me for so long? So as a band coming out of Ireland, is it how tough is it to break out of Ireland and more internationally? Because I know you did tours in the United States. I know you did things in the United States, but as a band coming out of Ireland, how tough is it to break out and be? I don't want to say be more than an Irish band, because clearly I love Ireland and I love all of the things, and I am falling in love with the music and culture. But I feel like there's a real sense of like you want to bust out and you want to do more things. You know what I mean? So what prevented you, do you think, from being bigger, so to speak? Or I don't know how to put it.
Yeah, back in those days, everything was record company dependent, if you know what I mean. There was no internet. There was,
sure,
you know, you couldn't put music out yourself. And as you know, record companies are run by, you know, accountants as the years went on, you know. And if something, at the time, you get it like a 3-year record deal, and that was a part of growing, you know what I mean? Growing with the company, and they're trying to push you out there. But the thing you have to realise is when you get your first deal, you know, I mean, we probably were together maybe 7, 8 years, maybe even longer before we got the record deal. So we had all those songs in a back catalogue, and you kind of pick the best ones out of it. And then all of a sudden, you know, you do the tours, and again, it's no guarantee that it's going to be successful, because more music came along, more music became available to people. You know, the CDs started to happen. I think we were one of the first European bands to release a record on CD, which was amazing. And as the internet then started to come along, more music became available, and people were listening to all types of music, which is brilliant. Don't get me wrong; it's absolutely brilliant. You know what I mean? But the competition becomes harder. You know what I mean? You know?
But I think wait, the heart of what happened. You're asking the question, like, why we didn't break out of Ireland.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's the bigger question. I mean,
it's no secret. At the time, just before we were starting to, you know, work on the second album, and well behind us, and EMI were well behind him. We got into a situation where we had to part company with Christy, you know, for his own health. Yeah. So that was really, I suppose, what would have been the, I don't mean to say downfall, but certainly to stop the train from travelling, you know what I mean? Yeah. And we were made, you know, we were told, oh no, look, you can travel on different buses and you can get different flights. And, you know, get so-and-so and Chris Thomas will mix for Clement will mix for you. But that wasn't important to us. It was more important to us was our friendship, you know. And when a friendship breaks down, well, especially with Christy, because he was just such an amazing performer, you know. Because we were brought up in a kind of working class environment, you know, it was all friendship, you know. So there was a lot of things going on, if that makes sense. You know, it wasn't just a case of, you know, you're not successful, so okay, next, you know, next band, next thing. There was a lot of personal stuff, I think, going on. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we were on the cusp of breaking through the States. We done a tour with Graham Parker in the room, which was very, very successful. But we released a song called Love Me Lately from Feel No Shame, which was released on Capitol Records in America. And that actually got to the lower end of the Billboard Top 100, which was phenomenal for a first release. And then Capitol had set us up to go back to America and support a band called Crowded House on an arena tour. And they were going to release This Is as the follow-up single to Love Me Lately. But unfortunately, as Joe said, the personal problems within the band got the best of us. But I think that decision we made back in the 80s was the right decision, and for me personally, I wouldn't change any of the decisions that were made over the 40-year career of the band.
Being successful had nothing to do with the decision that we made, if that makes sense. You know, we made that decision as people, basically, first and foremost, people.
Yeah, what really struck me, I watched an interview with you guys that you did a few weeks ago, and you said something to the effect that, you know, when Christy passed and you had, what meant more to you was the support from the people, rather than necessarily the acclamations from the bigger musicians like U2 or whatever. But I feel like that's a real metaphor for the band as well. Like, you've just been a people's band your entire career. And it's like, I put myself in your situation, and it's like, would you rather have a more global outreach, or would you rather have a rabid fan base in your own country? You know what I mean? And you guys have reached such hero status that, I mean, it feels like that's kind of where you're at right there. That's what you would prefer.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. It's not about success. It's not about fame. It's not about money. It's about music. And we've always been about music. And it's gas. If you look back at some of the songs, lyrically, it's as if those songs could have been written yesterday. Like, there was a song, Where's the Sun, that we wrote in 1994, Goodbye Charlie Moonhead album, that was written about homelessness. That song could have been written yesterday. And that goes for a lot of, like, live, from Feel No Shame, an album that was written in 1988, we would perform live. To this day, we would perform Don't Look Down on Me from the album. We do This Is from the album. We do Life Is Not a Pretty Thing from the album. We do This Time from the album. So the songs have really withstood the test of time, which is absolutely unreal when you think about it. Because a lot of songs, when you play them now from the 80s or 90s, would sound very dated. But for some strange reason, that hasn't happened with our songs. And it's like we're spoiled for choice when we're putting the live set together. It's what songs that you have to leave out, because we've got so many brilliant songs that we're dying to perform, you know.
A lot to do as well is the sentiment of the songs. What's in the song, what the song is about, more important. It's got, you know, if it becomes a big hit worldwide, so be it. You know, nothing's ever written with that in mind. Not the way it is now. You know, if you don't mind me saying that. You know, obviously, you know, that's the way the industry has gone now. You know, it's just what's going to be a hit, what's not going to be a hit. You know, when we write songs, it's what's good, what's bad. You know, not really, not the shit.
And I think you hit off a point there, Smitty, on how we came back a second time, and how we came back a second time was with the songs. And the first song that we came back with was a song called Crazy World. Again, if we'd have come back with another song, would it have happened? That song then, you know the music industry, you hardly ever get a second bite of the cherry. But that song let us sign into Sony BMG. And again, we were up and running again. So to us, it's all about the songs. If you write a good song, that will lead to other things happening. I firmly believe that.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
No, it's
a song doesn't have to be. If a song isn't commercially successful, it doesn't mean that it's a bad song. You know?
Yeah.
No, absolutely not. No, because honestly, I bet you Crazy World, you just brought it up, has been on my own personal soundtrack for the last, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 weeks, however long since I started listening to that song. And, you know, you mentioned it doesn't sound dated. You know, you can hear, like I said, in the reaction, you can hear the 90s, and in the Feel No Shame, you can hear the 80s because that's when it was recorded. That's what your musical sensibilities were at the time, you know what I mean? But I listened to Crazy World, and I'm like, I don't know if I would have gravitated towards Aslan when I was however old when this came out, 18, 19, 20, because I was just into super way heavier stuff. I would have heard Aslan, oh, that's good, but I probably would have gravitated towards something heavy. I would have gravitated towards it more now when I am looking for more mature songwriting and I'm listening for more nuance and things like that. You know what I mean? And even just listening to some of the later stuff, you guys haven't lost a step. Even Christy in his latest years, I mean, fuck, he sounded so good up until, I don't know, what... the Fields of Athenry. That was the last single that you released, and I listened to it and cried. And it's automatically that's probably, I've heard 3 or 4 versions of that song, and to me that's one of the most signature versions of that song that I have heard, and it will forever be on one of my favorite song playlists of Irish music ever. I forgot my point. It was basically gushing love for your band.
Yeah, that was actually the Fields of Athenry was the last time we were in the studio with Christy. And when we went looking to give something, we wanted to give the fans something immediately after Christy's passing, something that they could latch onto. And Joe went searching because Joe does all the mixing and producing for the band, depending on what producer we're working with. And Joe went searching, and he said, lads, you'll never believe, the last song we recorded was The Fields of Athenry. But as Joe said, we have a habit of taking a cover, and we will make it an Aslan cover. We won't just do a direct copy of it. And, you know, the end result of that being, you know, some people think that our version of Angie by the Rolling Stones is better than the Stones version. But to me, you'll never beat Stones. They're just a phenomenal band. But then, we wish you were here. People say the twist we put on that with the crowd singing along, that we've made that. And I think that's something that Joe works on. When we're doing a cover, Joe would purposely try and put the Aslan into it. And with the Fields of Athenry, he did that.
And obviously with Christy's voice, you know, because no matter what way you look at it, with any band, the voice is the band. You know? That's basically the thing. So, I mean, quite easy to work with such a great singer, you know. But obviously, the music that comes from behind is playing the music, having that Aslan sound, you know, whether it's from the 80s or the 90s. Listen to it now, as soon as you hear Christy's voice, you go, oh, that's Aslan.
No, that was the thing that struck me first. That I want to say is just how signature of a voice it is. Now, to shift gears, I don't even like asking this question. Have you even talked about a new vocalist at all? Have you even talked about a new vocalist?
Smitty, you can ask us whatever you want. That's one thing about Aslan. We're very honest and we're very, what you see is what you get, and we're truthful. So,
No, I love it.
you know, you can ask a question you want to ask, but I have an idea, I have a funny idea of what question is coming down.
No, I'm not a millionaire.
Okay.
Good. I mean, have you guys even talked about bringing a new vocalist in? Because we talk about how signature of a voice he had, and I made the Alice in Chains comparison earlier, you know what I mean, where they went on with a singer that didn't sound like Lane Staley, and he sounded like himself, but he could do the originals, you know what I mean? I don't really, have you even had that conversation at all?
Well, yeah, we have to, because we're a band and we want to play live, and we know that we're going to have to get a singer.
Well, I didn't know if, because you guys do amazing harmonies, and you have been in other bands where you've sung, so, and done great. So I didn't know if you would take over the vocals. Honestly, I didn't know who was going to take.
No, we'll definitely be getting a lead singer. We have to.
You have to. Yeah, like, you have to know your limitations. Like, Joe's brilliant on lead guitar, electric, backing vocals, harmonies, absolutely fantastic. I know my limitations. We're not frontmen. Do you know
right.
what I mean? We're not. Yeah, we're playing, and we're a shit type band, and we love performing, but we're going to have to get someone out front to sing the songs like that. And you know, people will say, "Oh, it's not the same. It's not the same." It's not. Of course, it's not the same.
Yeah.
It will never be the same. This is us wanting to go out and play live gigs, and we're doing it for us. We're not doing it for fame or global adulation. And we're doing it for us. We're musicians.
When we do get a new singer, it's certainly not going to be a replacement. I actually don't like that word, you know, replace. That doesn't even come into the equation, you know. The singer will have his own, will put his identity on the songs, you know. If every time a band, and I don't mean to generalise here, but if every time a band lost a singer or a member or a thing, you know, you'd be stopping Queen from carrying on. You'd be stopping, there's hundreds more. You'd be stopping Genesis from carrying on. You'd be stopping, the list is endless, you know, of people who. There's actually a great article. I think it's on YouTube. I think about 11 bands who carried on when they lost our singer, you know, and it's really an interesting read, you know. And when you read it, you sort of you come back into the thing. It's like, man, they're just musicians. All they want to do is play music.
Yeah.
You know? They went through a phase with this wonderful person, Christy, who was an amazing singer. But you have to just move on, you know. You have to.
The alternative is Aslan's music dies. If we stop playing, that's it. The songs will never be heard live again. So,
and people won't be able to sing along.
Yeah, and it's
really important.
It's a part. And look, some people are going to like it, some people are not going to like it. But as I said, it's our music, and we want to play our music, and it's that simple. When you boil it down to that, it's that simple.
It's not complicated.
Alan, you said in the 90s that when you guys got back together, I think that if you two went on with Bono, it wouldn't work. So I feel like what's different now is the fact that the band and Christy have reached some sort of hero status, where now it's about celebrating the legacy. And I don't know if back then there was the legacy necessarily as there is now. That's what's different.
Look, you'll get an idea. You've seen the Made in Dublin thing, and you see what happens in the room.
Yeah.
You've seen the video, so.
Oh no, it's one of my favorite things. Those sing-alongs and the way that crowd and is worked honestly by Christy is a sight to behold.
Yeah, and we like that buzz, and hopefully someday you will see you'll be in the room, experiencing that or whatever. But that's actually what we get out of bed for in the morning. Is that's what we live for? Is to create that kind of vibe in a room. And okay, Christy's not with us, but we still want that, and we still want to portray that music. We still believe that there's an audience out there that still want to sing them songs and celebrate Aslan, as you said, the legacy of Aslan. And we'll do it. We'll get someone, and we'll continue on, and hopefully you'll be at one of the shows.
Yeah. I plan on it.
They're going to be coming partying with us, and we're party animals.
Are you guys going to go on? Do you guys plan on leaving the country in the next 2 years? You guys going to be around in the next 2.5 years? I'll be around.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, we might be over to you next year.
Yeah. Yeah.
What part are you in? Where are you in America?
I'm in northern Michigan. So, I don't know how familiar, like 4 hours north of Detroit, maybe?
Oh, sorry, we played Detroit and Michigan, yeah.
We'll find you, Smitty.
We'll find you.
We'll find you.
If you come close, I'll find you. You were talking about just how much you love playing music together. Like, clearly you have musical connections that have spanned 40 plus years. I love finding out about musical sensibilities and where you got your musical sensibilities from. I know we don't have terribly a lot of time left, but if each of you can just kind of share your first time you ever related to something musically, where it was like, I want to do that, and then the first time you related to your band members in the same way.
Okay. The first time for me was my ma bought me the Monkees, Daydream Believer. And I stuck it on and played, and I went, I want to do that. That was it. That's how old I am. That was.
It's a great song.
You know, bands being manufactured or anything like that, but thankfully from there I've moved up to Jeff Buckley status and stuff, people like that. And so that was really my first.
When I was a really young kid, my dad was a huge influence with the music that he was into, and then like I'd older brothers and sisters and listened to their records, and there was a few drums as well hanging around the house. So yeah, I'd say I was about 6 or 7 years of age, and I made a decision. I don't know how I did at that age.
6 or 7.
I was hooked. I went to see Aslan before they were Aslan. They were a band called Mila 18. And I went to see them in the Revenue Commissioners Club in Dublin. And I walked in and I saw Christy performing on stage, and there was about 8 people on stage, saxophones and keyboards and everything. I was just mesmerised. I'd never seen a frontman like Christy before. And I kind of knew the bass player that was with them at the time, a fellow called Tony. And I went up to Tony after the gig and I said, Tony, I have to be in this band. And he said, can you play, Anton? I said, no, still can't. But I have to. They were just unreal. Christy was he was like an alien that come down from space and was performing on stage. And I persevered. And a couple of years after that, seeing them and asking could I join the band, I actually got into the band. So never give up on your dreams, because that was it. I just wanted it. Couldn't do anything, couldn't play guitar, couldn't sing, couldn't do anything. But I just still can't. just I persevered and got into the band. And that was, never looked back. Brilliant.
When you saw them, was that around the time, was that talent show you guys did? Was that 1980 what? You guys did some talent show?
It would have been around 1990. Yeah, Mila 18 was 1979 to Aslan formed in 1982. So it would have been after 82, but definitely early 80s, very early 80s, because my first gig with Aslan was 1984 in a place called the Lark in the Park in Raheny, and I was one of the backing singers. They had me up on stage backing singing. That was the first gig with them. But what a journey it's been, and it's still. I'm looking forward to the next leg of the journey.
How you feeling so far? Are you creating new music? Are you sitting down doing new things? I mean, clearly the last few years have had to be inspiring for you musically, right?
Yes, yeah, and I think that's going to be very important in the moving forward process. At the moment, we're playing music and we're writing and we're up here in Camelot Studios. This is where we rehearse in Dublin. But the next phase, and I think it's going to be very important, is to get something new released, so people will understand that yes, we Aslan are moving forward and they're going on with the next phase of their career. So yeah, that's part of the bigger picture, Smitty. Definitely, 100%. As well as finding the singer, getting out gigging, releasing new material. It's all part of that package that we're going to have to push.
You never stop writing music. It just doesn't stop. It's just like second nature to you.
Is it like breathing? It's got to be like breathing.
You make a note of it on your phone. A couple of lyrics.
You guys, I want to thank you so much for coming on. And again, I want to say another thanks to Denise for reaching out as well. You guys have been nothing but awesome. I have absolutely fallen in love with your music. There's so much that's going on my own personal playlist now. I love if there is any sort of positive aspect that you can put on the passing of any person at all, be it a musician in this case, is that in some way, shape, or form, it's going to lead your music to other people. I think of like Sinead O'Connor. I think of how many artists that passed away that nobody heard of before, and especially like you said, now that the internet exists and you can share things freely and you don't got to worry about fucking labels. I love finding music that I didn't know existed before. I'm all about opening rock and roll minds, and you guys have opened minds, so I can't thank you enough.
Well, can I just tell you, Smitty, that's lovely to hear, and we enjoyed, because you hadn't a clue about Aslan, and when Denise saw the reaction and you put up a couple of reactions, we were absolutely blown away, because it's great to see someone that had never heard of Aslan suddenly hearing of Aslan. And for Ireland, for such a small country, a population of 5 million, if you look at the amount of international acts, like the Cranberries, U2, there's hundreds of them. Musically, Ireland is way punching above its weight. There's so many brilliant bands here at the moment. It's just like, it's phenomenal. And it really is. Long may it continue. Irish music is where it's at, definitely.
Hey, I was going to go off on some tangent about Irish music and have a half an hour to 45-minute long conversation about learning, growing up in that environment, because it is something that I'm gravitating towards a lot and fascinated with. That might be for another conversation. I know you guys don't have the time for that today. But there's such a sensibility, it seems to me, of just this togetherness, of this inclusivity of all of the musicians on that island. Just, it seems to be there's not a competition aspect like there might be in the United States between bands. I've worked with a lot of fucking bands in this region of northern Michigan, and there doesn't necessarily seem to be a competition aspect where it's more supportive and promoting other bands and artists.
Yeah, and you mentioned Sinead O'Connor there. One of the highlights of our career, over a 40-year career, was having Sinead come down and sing with us on one of our albums. And it was just like, we were going, Sinead O'Connor's coming down. She just waltzed in, had a cup of tea, hung out with us. There was no big deal about it. There was nothing made of it. U2 recorded This Is, an Aslan song. Again, there was no big deal made about it. Just Bono, Christy wasn't well, and they done it out of the goodness of their hearts. And that goodwill between Irish bands and Irish musicians is, I think, what makes the country so great musically. Because you can call people up and ask them to sing on your album, and if they'll do it, they'll do it. We've had so many great guests that have got up with us, and it's just over the career. I think you hit it on the head there. It's not musician in Ireland. It's all about the music.
You guys, You've been super awesome by coming on, and I can't thank you enough. And yeah, when you come to the United States, I'll say when. I would love to be there. You just let me know, and I'll make the drive. I'll make the drive. I'm calling it right now.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Thanks very much, Smitty.
Thanks, Smitty.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Have a great day. Make great music.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you guys for tuning in. I really appreciate you taking the time. And a huge thank you again to Aslan and Denise, their manager, for reaching out as well. I cannot thank you enough. And for ultimately helping me promote my project. If you are interested in more What the Hell Everything podcast, please consider clicking the YouTube page link, subscribing to the channel perhaps, and then in 2026, of course, the Smitty Learns Irish pubcast that is my absolute passion, and I cannot wait to get started. And if you'd like to support that, the Patreon page is only $3 a month for basic support, and way more reactions on that channel as well. So thank you very much, you guys, and until next time. What the hell, everything?